Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
Ready? Okay. We'll call the December Stearns County Planning Commission meeting to order. Please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're expecting 2 more members to join us, but at this point, let's just do introductions. Commissioner Persky, why don't you start? Yes. I'm starting.
Okay. Joe Persky, Stearns County Commissioner.
Ken Mossman, District 4 Representative.
Jeff Bertram at large.
Mike Pearl, District 5. Rich Blankish at large.
We're a recommending body, so Commissioner Persky does not vote. He'll take our discussions back to the board on January 4th when these items are considered by the full board. And as I said, 2 members we're expecting to come. So the first order of business is item number 1, the Clearwater Forest South Haven conditional use permit. Jennifer will do the staff report.
Yes, this is a request from Clearwater Forest of South Haven for a conditional use permit. They're requesting to use an alternative elevation method to elevate future structures within Clearwater Forest, which are located in the floodplain overlay district. This property is at 13449 Campfire Circle, South Haven. All right, just to give you a little background on this, if you're not familiar with Clearwater Forest, it's a community that's made up of, it's an RV park and a manufactured home park. And what we're focusing on tonight is the part of the community that's the manufactured home park. The bulk of the property is within the floodplain overlay district of Clearwater Lake. So when the new homes are brought in, they have to be elevated so the bottom floor is high enough above the flood elevation. And they're asking for a conditional use permit so they don't have to bring in fill to raise those homes up, and they can elevate them on piers or pilings and meet the requirements that way. So they did have an engineer review their proposal, and his report or his letter was in your packets. He is proposing using a method where you elevate the home on the piers or the pilings, and then if there's any skirting around that, which the park requires the skirting, then there has to be openings in the skirting that would allow the flood water to flow in and out and equalize the pressure, so we don't have homes that get damaged or destroyed if there's high water. So a little bit of additional background. We do have 2 current homes out there that are not in compliance because we haven't got their anchoring certifications yet. So that's one thing that is being worked on. So technically in our zoning ordinance, there's a provision that the county can't approve any permits for a property if there's current violations. So we have given the property owner a compliance agreement to sign. So assuming they assign that before the board meeting on the 4th, then we can proceed with that. And what that compliance agreement would say is they would agree to get that done by July 1st. So let's see. As far as setbacks go, the homes out there do meet setbacks from the lake and the property line. The access is from Bayview Road, which is a township road, and then they go on to Clearwater Forest Drive and Campfire Circle. Those are their internal roads there. The DNR, so our office had a meeting, consulted with the DNR on this as well, and they're supportive of doing this blanket CUP. So each time a home is brought in there, each homeowner doesn't have to come here for a CUP. So it would cover the whole resort, or the whole community, I should say. So if the Planning Commission were to recommend approval, there's a number of conditions. They're kind of technical based on the engineer's proposal and based on the requirements for bringing in manufactured homes and being in floodplain. So the recommended conditions would be that they'd have to follow construction site best management practices when they're bringing new homes in. The as-built condition of the structure has to be certified by a registered engineer or architect that it's in compliance with the general standards of the state building code. That's a requirement in the floodplain ordinance, and that comes down to us from the DNR. So basically all electrical, heating, ventilation, plumbing, and air conditioning equipment and any other service facilities must be at or above the regulatory flood protection elevation or be designed to prevent floodwater from entering or accumulating within these components during times of flooding. Okay, the third condition would be an elevation certification is required showing the bottom floor of a home meets the floodplain elevation of 997.7. 4, a manufactured home installation compliance certification is required after placement of the home on the property. 5, before we'd issue the construction permit, this is where we would get the plan from them to show how they're going to have those openings around the foundation, around the, basically in the skirting. So there has to be at least 2 openings on each wall that allow floodwater to freely flow in and out. The total net area of the openings is determined by figuring 1 square inch of net opening for every 1 square foot of enclosed space. The bottom of the openings shall be no more than 12 inches above grade. If they do use vents in those openings, they can't require human intervention to allow the flow of water through them. So they can't have solid covers, and they have to be disabled permanently in the open position. As an alternative, they could have engineered openings if they have if they're certified by an engineer. There's a diagram in there that helps to explain that all, what I just went through. And then number 6, before you'd issue a construction permit, we're requesting a letter of credit or cash escrow to be submitted to the department, which would guarantee submittal of the as-built condition statement that's required in number 1, and also ensure completion of the manufactured home installation certification. That was condition number 4. So the county could use said cash escrow or letter of credit to hire the appropriate professionals to meet the requirements if they're not submitted by the owner within 30 days of request. If they are provided, then it may be used, or may be released, or alternatively maintained for future use as may be agreed to by the parties. Non-compliance will result in possible revocation of the CUP. Okay, condition 7 would be at this site, the RFPE is 997.7. To ensure the enclosed area below that elevation continues to meet the ordinance requirements, the following applies. So enclosed areas below that elevation are only allowed to be used for parking of vehicles, limited storage, or access to the building. All interior walls, ceilings, and floors below that elevation shall be unfinished or constructed of flood-resistant materials. Mechanical, electrical, or plumbing devices shall not be installed below that elevation. The walls of the enclosed areas below the RFPE shall be equipped to remain equipped with openings, as shown in the permit. The county may take appropriate legal action to correct any violation. Any alterations or changes from these conditions may render the structure uninsurable or increase the cost for flood insurance. A duly appointed representative of the county is authorized to enter the property for the purpose of inspecting the exterior and interior of the enclosed area to verify compliance with the permit. Such inspections will be conducted upon due notice to the owner and no more frequently than once each year. More frequent inspections may be conducted if an annual inspection discovers a violation. And then the last condition I mentioned earlier, per section 2.4 of the zoning ordinance, the conditional use permit shall not be issued unless a legally binding agreement is signed to correct the violations on lots 44 and 61. So this would be required before the county board could act on the permit application. I visited the site December 6th, and that's all I have. Well, I take that back. I do have one letter from the public when we get to that.
If you welcome Sean Blackburn, I want to make sure and get that on the record. Let's do it again.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank
District
you.
2.
Yes, District 2, and my apologies, everyone.
No problem. If you visit the site, when I call your name, say yes. If you did not, say no. Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I did.
Yes.
Ken? Sean?
Yes.
Commissioner Persky?
Yes.
Okay. And I can ask this question, I guess, later. So item discussion, we'll have the applicant introduction. Whoever is representing Clearwater Forest, just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Wanda Summers, and I'm the property manager at address 13449 Campfire Circle, South Haven.
Okay, thank you. Anything you want to add to Jen's staff report?
Sorry. Oh, we were getting variances for each new home as they came in, and we discovered that that really wasn't the correct process because the fill cannot be brought up to the bottom of the home. We need underspace, crawl space for utilities and things and hookups in manufactured homes. So we're just working through the new process and understanding it. The managing partner for Clearwater Forest is Phil Johnson, and he's out of town right now and isn't able to attend. I did just forward him that letter that will require his signature, so I'm sure he hasn't even seen it yet. But I'm sure we've got a little time before the next meeting to get that done.
Okay, thank you. I guess the question probably to you, Jen, is, so is this, when you say the applicant and you talk about, is it her or is it Phil Johnson, or who's responsible?
Yep, that's a good question. So the property owner, so the permit, if granted, would be issued to the property, and it would be recorded against the property. The current owner is Clearwater Forest LLP, so that's who the owner is. That's who'd be responsible. Yep.
But there's got to be a person.
Yeah, and that would be Phil Johnson, who's the managing partner of Clearwater Forest LLP. Yep.
And so what I'm trying to understand is, so you make these requirements, I move in, I don't comply, what does Phil do to me? Or what do we do to Phil?
I think that really we're going to be more involved in the whole move-in process than we were in previously. Previously, when we did just the variances, the homeowner really was responsible for following all of the guidelines and rules and making sure that that installation certificate got on the house. But with this new process, I probably would be more involved as property manager to make sure that all of those things were getting done properly so that you wouldn't come to the end and then have some problem with the house that would need to come back to. And I do have a legal authority to sign documents and things for Clearwater Forest. So.
And one thing I'd also add, we talked about this when we met on Monday. The question came up, who provides that financial guarantee? Does it have to be Clearwater Forest? No, it doesn't. It could be the homeowner who's moving in. They could provide the financial guarantee, so then it would be their money on the line. They'd have some incentive to cooperate as well. But ultimately, the way permitting works is you go back to the landowner.
Which would be the Clearwater Forest LLP,
yep.
i.e. Phil Johnson. Because, I mean, somebody's got to be held responsible, and you don't want to hold the wrong person responsible, because there's 89 sites. It's hard to find 89 people that think the same. In fact, there's people in this room that can't think at all, so it's hard to get them to think alike on the same token. So,
one correction: there's 81 licensed sites, 89 campsites.
And I'm looking out more than anything. We have a habit of just doing it, and then tomorrow you're going to get hung out to dry. You didn't even know it. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that we know what the process is, that once we do what we do, that we don't wash our hands and say, hey, that's their problem, not ours. If we're going to require them of the standards, just want to make sure that you guys can comply with them in a reasonable way without being harassed, I guess. Rich?
Yeah, questions. What this basically is asking for is a blanket CUP, correct? And then
yes.
Each individual home that is moved in or altered, that foundation, the alteration that needs to take place there, and make sure that it has the flow-through system in it?
Yes.
That's the responsibility of the homeowner to get the correct engineering for that?
Well, good question. So the engineer has already described how it needs to be done. So we have the engineering done. So each time we get an application for a construction permit to bring in a new home, they have to provide us that plan, how their foundation or their skirting is going to look, how many openings there's going to be. So we try to lay out the conditions so that you could kind of go step by step and draw up a plan. And I know Wanda, mentioned that she would be assisting them with that too. So it's going to be a joint effort between the park and the homeowner, but ultimately the permits are issued to the park.
My question then is, the engineering firm that submitted this
Yep.
design, they're willing to cover that for every home that is installed in the park?
Yeah, and they won't have to draw up a new plan for every home, so the homeowner can do the plan. Yep.
Okay.
And then after it's installed, though, they will have to get a surveyor out there to tell us the bottom floor, make sure that was high enough, and then they'll have to get an engineer or architect out there to sign off and say, yeah, it was installed to building code. And then they'll have to get the installation company will also sign off on an installation certification. So
Okay.
after the home's brought in, there's going to be a number of people looking at it, signing off on it, making sure everything was done right.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Persky.
I think this is a great idea to have this blanket CUP so that once we're done, then they won't have to come to us. I think that's a very good thing. But as I look at the picture here, I'm wondering what it is we're actually trying to accomplish and what we're doing as far as setting those homes. Are all of these homes basically going to be mobiles that are going to be brought into the park?
Yeah, they're all mobile or modulars.
Okay. And so looking at that, it appears that there's a ground or level base, and then there's block upon top of that. But typically when you bring in a mobile, don't you take that mobile on the I-beams and set that on pads and then put it on piers and then put skirting around it? So you wouldn't actually build up block around that entire mobile, would you?
No, and I don't know where we got this exact picture, but I think it was meant to just show the skirting, the bottom and the vents. There's not really block.
And I would say if somebody was doing something at a lake home and trying to get it above the floodplain, this is what you would maybe be seeing, and you would have a crawl space underneath. But basically what you're trying to do is you're going to get the floor level of that mobile above the water table. Is that correct?
That's correct. So on the drawing, it would be that green RFPE. That'll be the floor level. Thank you. Yeah, the bottom of the mobile home will be at that RFPE, the regulatory flood protection elevation. Yep.
Right, and so then it would be designed, and I don't know what the spacing is between the pads and the supports, but then they would put those pads down, and then the supports, the blocks up to the I-beams, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
to make the house at that level. Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep, and Commissioner Persky, that's a good point too, that they won't look exactly like that illustration. We tried to find an illustration that showed a manufactured home. We couldn't. But it would be, if you would, in that illustration, replace the block with skirting. That's what it would look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
We, and of course, you can tell he knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two. Those are good questions, Commissioner Persky. What, is it actual blocks? Because I thought I saw some that weren't actual blocks. It just looks like blocks.
Yeah, the skirting isn't actual blocks.
No.
No, it's metal skirting.
Right,
Yeah, and it has to be approved metal skirting for manufactured homes.
right. So it's not really, it's more aesthetics than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's what I thought. Okay. We'll open a public hearing. Anybody here or on Zoom regarding this issue, please come up to the podium. Is anybody here or on Zoom that would like to share something on item number 1? Please come up to the podium. Good evening. State your name and address for the record. Push it green that when it lights up.
Hi, I'm Dawn Stammer. I'm a neighbor that live on Bayberry Road. So it's just. I'm Dawn Stammer. I live on Bayberry Road, so I'm just on the other road there. And I guess I just had a question, not so much on the elevation part and the blanket part, but we are not notified when they're moving trailers in and out or how many that they're allowed. There's a lot of activity going on there. and a lot more trailers being brought in recently. So I think that these things need to be discussed. What is their permit for? Like, how many can they have in there?
Why don't you just stay there? Probably would be best if we answered that right away, Jennifer.
Yeah, so they are licensed for 89 RV sites and 81 manufactured homes. Yep, 81 manufactured homes is what their license is for.
How many are there?
We have 69. Yeah, we have 69 homes right now.
Record, they get touchy. Tell me that.
Oh, sorry. We have, okay.
I'm trying to stay out of trouble. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. How many are we planning on putting in there?
Mr. Chair, they're not proposing to add any more. This would just be for replacements. So they couldn't go above what they're licensed for, which is 81 homes. So what this would allow is replacements, not adding to that number, not going above 81.
Older home would be taken out, newer home would be brought in.
Correct.
And so there's no elected board or nothing of this area. Just management, Phil and you.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just going to leave it on. I'm sorry, I was turned off. Now I'm going to get turned on. I'm going to say it again. God, I hope it was a good question. I hope I remember it. Oh, you're taking old ones and moving them out, bringing new ones coming in.
Yep.
You don't have an elected board or anything. Is there something that you could do do you do like a newsletter or?
Yeah, I do a monthly newsletter, and when we don't really announce it until after the new person's moved in. We say welcome to, so and so, but
If you knew they were moving them, would it be a hardship to do it the month before so
No.
they would know?
that's fine. Yeah, we can do that.
Because, I could see that if, every time if you have a new neighbor or something, of course, everybody wants to know who the new neighbor is and how they're going to be. And so if you could do that, I think that would be
Okay, yep.
helpful. Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember. I think that one of my first questions wasn't answered, but I'm trying to remember it.
Do you remember, Jennifer, what the first question was?
Well,
Or
she made
Wanda?
a comment about being notified of homes coming in. Was that what it was about?
Yeah, that we
Okay.
have not been notified of new RVs or, I don't know, seasonal properties coming in or changing of existing homes that are there.
And Wanda just said that they'd try to do that in that newsletter. Then, have you received the newsletter?
No.
Okay.
Then, Mr. Bertram,
Mr. Chair. is good.
Mr. Chair, the newsletter is something that is mainly for the people who live in our community, and it also is published on our Facebook page, but we don't hand deliver it or mail it or print it to give it to people that don't live in our community. Also, I'm really not sure why. I don't think that we're required to notify neighbors when we replace a home in our community.
I'm sure, Madam, Ms. Wanda, there's a lot of things. Whenever anybody has come to me and said we want to do this, the first thing I ask them is, have you talked to the neighbors? There's a have to, and then there's a common sense to. You may not have to, but it might create more harmony if everybody kind of knows what's going on. But that's your call. We can't force you to do that, but it might minimize issues for you and for the neighborhood. But I don't think well, I suppose we could require you, but I don't know that we'd want to do that. But so I guess it's up to you ultimately. Jennifer?
And Mr. Chair, I'll just add too, from a county ordinance standpoint, there is not required to be a public notice for replacing homes unless they need a variance or a conditional use permit, which is what this is. But if they are complying with all the regulations, they can bring one out, bring one in. So there is not a requirement to do a notice for that.
This kind of reminds me of a HOA without a formality to it. It's kind of an arm's length.
Mr. Chair,
Ken?
I think part of the problem is here, she doesn't live on the same road. And so that'd be like if you had a neighbor a road over and you're moving people in and out, you're not going to tell, her every time you want to do something on your farm or your whatever.
Sure.
This is a
I guess
business.
I was gonna just say, there wasn't any communication out to the township, correct?
For
Jennifer?
the conditional use permit?
Right.
Yeah, well, we send notice to the township as required. We always send notice.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a formal meeting and discuss it and
We
say-
didn't receive any comments from them, no.
I mean, that's kind of your source for information, I guess, because, yeah, this is a private business.
But you do know now that they have a Facebook page and stuff, and maybe somebody can kind of tap into that and keep track, but
Yeah, there are a lot of the RVs that have been moved in recently, though. So they're not being replaced. They're coming in new. Just for the record.
okay. Jennifer?
And that's good to know. We do check the numbers when we do the annual licensing. Our licensing staff do that. They do an inspection every year, so we'll check on that.
Are any of the units, did you see any of the units on the 6th that were non-compliant? You know, a trailer park comes to mind, you know, where some of the models themselves were just like, you know, the inspector
Right.
said they're non-livable, nothing like that.
I did not, but it was, you know, kind of a drive-through, which is probably similar to what you did. Yeah, I didn't see any violations that I noticed.
Who does that? Like, what county, what department is that does that when they go into trailer home parks and say, oh God, that's uninhabitable?
Do you know who that? Environmental health does that. Environmental health staff, yeah. That's our licensing folks who do the licensing.
You might want to just check with them and see if they've been through there lately and see if they have any issues or.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? If it's right in the middle, if it's bright green, you're good to go.
That lives on that road, which is 14 of us, is that what's going to happen that you're allowing this raise to go, I'm just saying raise, where's that water going to go? We are about a quarter of a block from where they want to put that new trailer in. So that runoff from that building up, it's going to come and it's got to go somewhere, so it's going to go down our road. So we feel that there should be something more done to stop it, and it's also going to go to the neighbors in the park, to their right and to their left. The other thing is, and I realize it wasn't on your agenda, but Bayberry Road is a private road, and we have to allow residents to go up to as far as the DNR because they are a resident. But beyond that, that is totally private. Now, we understood, and I didn't get it from Wanda, that they were going to come in and use a piece of property to have the trucks come in the back way. That piece of property belongs to one of the neighbors, and some of it is Clearwater Forest is an easement they got. But in talking to our lawyer, he stated that that easement has to state for what they got that easement for. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't understand it. But number one, we are not going to allow them to run the big trucks and their mobile homes up that road. We don't get any help from the DNR. The 14 people that live on that road has to take care of it. So we wanted on record that I did bring that up for the people on the road, that we're not going to allow them to go through that little piece of property, because it belongs to one of the residents on Bayberry, and it does belong to some on Clearwater Forest. And they did get an easement, but it didn't state what that easement was for. So that was one thing we wanted to bring up, and we know it wasn't on your paperwork, but as long as we're here, we wanted to do it. So what you're seeing is if they want to bring in 3 more trailers that they took out 3, that you're going to have it a blanket thing where they don't have to get permission to put in another one if they're replacing an old one. Is that what we're understanding?
Jennifer?
Yeah, they won't need to come back before this board, but they'll still need to get a permit from the county to show that they're going to raise it correctly and meet the requirements for floodplain.
Okay. And like I say, our only, one of our concerns is where's that water going to go because they're doing this. And that's one of the things that needs to be brought up. It hasn't been flooded out since '86, but possibility, maybe not this year because the water's so down, but it could happen from them raising them up. So we'd just like to know what your concern, even with it, what you would consider if you lived on that property, what you would want to.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Persky?
Okay, Jennifer, they're not increasing any impervious here. They're just, this is all about putting or replacing mobile homes, correct?
That would be correct, Mr. Chair. They're not proposing to increase impervious, and they're also not, with this, they're not proposing to bring in fill or dirt. So they would just elevate those homes on the normal piers that they normally elevate homes on. Yeah, so they're not proposing to bring in any more dirt or material.
And just so you understand, impervious, so the roof that's already there, the water that's running off of that won't change. It would run off of the new roof. And then we've done these on private cabins and homes where you raise them up, and that's why they have those openings where the water flows through, so it doesn't back it up or anything. I'm not going to say that won't cause a problem, but they're kind of designed to not allow that, Jennifer, right?
Yeah.
Chair?
To minimize that, the flow going through, where the water, that's why the openings have to be totally open, that the water can flow through just like something wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I guess I'm misunderstanding. They want to replace that, and they said they're going to replace it on the property that's all theirs right now. They're not going to raise it. Okay. Is it not that you have to have pillars to put these homes on? Isn't it the state laws? And I understand it's 16 for single and 32 for double. Now, I'm not sure.
Mr. Chair,
Wanda?
each home is spec'd for the exact number and size of the piers by the manufacturer. So there is no standard.
Okay.
Okay, I guess I was misinformed.
Sean? Oh, okay. I thought you said I had something.
Yeah.
Oh, you're done? Or no?
Mr. Chair, no, just so that you
Commissioner Persky?
understand, if they actually would have used the dirt system where they would have put the sides up, that would have increased the impervious amount. But what they're doing here is just putting it up on piers, so the water that was going to hit that roof is going to actually be underneath the mobile itself.
Okay, and I understand that now. I didn't at first when it was brought up, assuming they were going to build it up with dirt and stuff, so then that runoff would have to go somewhere. So if that's, I misunderstood that, so my apologies. And as far as finding out what they're coming in with new trailers, Clearwater Forest is on Facebook, but you have to live in Clearwater Forest or be asked to join it. So none of us on the road would know because we're not allowed on their particular site. So we wouldn't know. And that was what Dawn was asking about, to let us know. But, being neighborly, and I have plenty of friends in that park, and I do enjoy being with those people in the park. So if they're bringing it up to standards and they're doing what they're supposed to do, it's great for the whole community. Okay?
Did you know about this Bayberry Road access, Wanda?
Yes, I do. I just didn't think this was the place that we were going to be talking about that.
But you understand then that they're not going to let you use
Yeah,
it?
we had no plans to bring a home in that way.
Got it.
I don't know where that came from, so
Okay.
thank you.
And Jennifer, were you aware of that, or we'll probably put that under other issues?
I was not aware of it, but yeah, we can do that.
We can do that, then we have it on the radar, so. You've been helpful, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? One more time. Anybody else here or on Zoom? If not, let's read that letter.
Okay, this letter is from Wilfred Roth. So he states, I have a good idea of what they're trying to accomplish, and I live on Bayview Road, just a short distance away. The concern is the way FEMA establishes the floodplain. In his situation, the house was not in floodplain, but the crawl space under it was. So he was required to get flood insurance to purchase the property. He believes this was wrong, and if you're going to have a variance granted, it should apply to all residents in the area. If you're only going to give Clearwater Forest the exception and not the rest of the homeowners, then he would object to the application. And so then Wilfred and I did exchange emails back and forth, and I explained to him how the requirements work, and then if he wanted to work on his property, he could request, the required permits to do that.
Okay. Well, with no one here, no one on Zoom, and the letter being read, motion to close the public hearing would be in order.
I'll make a motion.
Rich makes the motion, Mike seconds it. They arm wrestled each other. Any discussion on that? If not, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public hearing is closed. Further discussion on the issue?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out, when we're talking about the numbers involved, you're licensed for up to 81 homes, and you have 69 there now. So there might be upwards to at least or possibly 12 more, correct?
According to our license, right now, we really don't have the space to add 12 more because the homes that are coming in are taking up more space than the little ones that are leaving. So we're taking up 2 to 3 lots sometimes for a big double wide coming in where we used to have small single wides.
Okay, just for clarification.
You were good at math, Sean, weren't you?
Thank you. I tried.
Yep.
When I got to college level, algebra.
I did check it, though. You were right. So, yep.
Thank you.
Let's do the findings unless somebody else has something else. Number 1, is a proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, it is consistent with zoning ordinance 439, sections 4.8 and 10.1.
2, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? List the sections.
Mr. Chair, it does conform to the future land use map, the natural resources overlay, as well as our comprehensive plan goals and objectives, our living goals, and to manage impacts of growth and development in rural character.
Number 3, is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, I would say it is because it is a park, and so it would be compatible with everybody else.
Number 4, how has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied? It would be the conditions, obviously, and by what Wanda said, and by what Wanda is going to tell Phil. Number 5, other issues pertinent to this matter. If it's applicable, say something. Township input. They didn't give any. Federal, state, local permits. That's covered in the conditions on the local permits. Environmental concerns, groundwater, surface water, that's being dealt with by the conditions. Information submitted regarding property values, there has not been any. Public health, safety, traffic generation impacts, minimum change. Public service and facilities, including schools, parks, streets, and utilities, minimum change. Financial assurance required to guarantee reclamation or cleanup. That would be the, what did you say it was? Not the bond, a bond.
Yes, a cash escrow or a bond.
Got it.
Or a letter of credit, sorry.
So that would be by that, either by the homeowner themselves or the LLP. Okay? And then other issues pertinent, that the Bayberry Road is a private road. Just to state that for a fact. Rich?
And then the other item in the information provided here, the DNR supports the CUP concept here.
Okay. So with that, a motion would be in order to recommend or deny to the county board.
I'll make a motion, we approve the request for the CUP.
Okay.
We'll second that motion.
Motion's been made by Rich, second by Ken. Recommend approval to the county board. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The recommendation is approved to the county board on their January 4th meeting. Good luck. Item number 2, consider rezoning request submitted by Kyle Hardigan, Sauk Center, on behalf of Larry and Donna Hardigan, Sauk Center. Staff report. Mr. Hardigan can come up ready if you want to.
Okay, this is a rezoning request what they're asking to do is rezone approximately 2.5 acres from R5 to R1. This property is on County Road 185 in Sauk Center Township. Specifically, the address is 39354 County Road 185. So this entire property is 8.82 acres, and there's already a home on it. And what they would like to do is create one new lot. So they're asking to have 2.5 acres rezoned to R1 on the north side of the property, which is adjacent to the cemetery there. If you got out there, you saw that there's a home kind of sitting there up on piers or up on whatever. And the township is aware of that. And the township actually has permitting authority here because it's not shoreline. So they allowed that to sit there until this gets all done. And if the rezoning is approved, then their next step is to do a plat, and then they could get permits to set that home there permanently. So being on a county road, they'll need an approach permit from the county highway department. And the property is, pretty much just kind of grassland or in that area where they're wanting to rezone it. There are remnants of a dirt bike track on the east side of the property. The zoning in this area, you can see directly west is the city of Sauk Center, and then you've got Ag 80 to the east. So they're right kind of at a buffer there, a transitional area between the city and more ag land. Since it's currently zoned residential, we did not run a LISA score on it. If the rezoning is approved, they could potentially have 2 homes, because there'd be 2.5 acres zoned R1. I know that's not their immediate plan, but that technically would be an option. The township did review it and recommended approval of the rezoning. In the comp plan, this is in the transitional area on the future land use map. I visited the site December 6th, and that's all I have.
Okay. Members, if you visited the site, say yes when I call your name. If you did not, say no. Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I did.
Yes.
Ken? Sean?
Yes.
Commissioner Persky?
Yes.
Okay. We all visited the site. Applicant introductions. I'm going to go on a limb and say you're Kyle.
Yes, I'm Kyle Hardigan.
And state your address for the record.
It's 39354 County Road 185, Sauk Center.
Okay. Anything you want to add to the staff report?
The only thing I'll add is there is no way, shape, or form there will be a second residence added to that. Yeah. And then the people to the north, of course, that's a cemetery, and then it's my mother and father. I reside at their residence right now. They'll be moving back sometime soon, so that's why we're doing this, and it was actually more or less their idea to do the split. And then, it's just the people across the road. That's about it. So, and then Virgil Niehaus owns the 80 to the back of us, and we talked to him plenty of times, and he is very accepting of it.
Okay. Never's a long time, Kyle.
What was that?
Never's a long time.
Yeah, I don't think the people to the north will complain much, but...
Oh, my old man's up there. He's pretty crabby.
Yeah, the people to the south, it was kind of their idea, to be honest with you, so...
Across the road, you got Matt Wessel. You know him?
Yes, I know most of the people across the road. None of them have really complained too much. I know the kids might complain because we frequently found their baseballs, softballs, and golf balls in our yard, but since we moved the house there, none of that has happened.
Yeah, that house comes from up by the hospital, right?
Correct, yep. So the reason why it had to be moved earlier was due to the hospital needed it out of there.
Yep.
This time frame crunch stuff was not my idea and not the best scenario, but we're kind of dealing with it as it comes. Couldn't get anybody to do a basement, and then we couldn't get this approved anyways. So township approved it as long as we didn't put a basement in before all this was approved. So that's what we're going with.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Persky?
while you're talking, Kyle, I'll just ask you a couple questions. I have no problem, with the site and that. Just curious, the cemetery, is that belong to the church, or is that city? Do you know?
I know technically it's 3 different cemeteries there, and I don't know which one is which. I know one belongs to the church, but other than that, that's all I can really tell you.
Okay, and I was just wondering, because people are going to continue to die, I would assume, and just wondering about expansion on that. If we're concerned about expansion on that, that's going to stop them from expanding. I don't know if they can go back. That was just one question. And the other was the city is Sauk Center. Do they have any plans for annexation? I mean, was that an issue for them or for you?
An issue for me? No. I mean, by the time it would be annexed, I'd already have my own sewer septic. So, I mean, as long as I wouldn't have to hook up into that, that would not be an issue. Expansion for the cemetery, they have never once talked to my parents about expansion. So, and I mean, it was brought up at the township as far as, your same question, well, what if the cemetery wants to expand? My dad said in not so nice words, well, they'd have to write me one heck of a check in order for that to happen at this point.
Okay.
So, I mean, they can always expand back to the east there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they still have, I would say, in the nearest cemetery to us, there's a good acre of open land that's not even developed. Yeah, right, actually in that back corner. And then if you go more to the north, there's a bunch of trees and stuff that they just started clearing to open up. So, I mean, they do have plenty of open ground yet.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, just, always looking for future conflict and neighbors to get along, so.
yeah.
Thank you for saying it in a nicer way than your dad did.
Yeah. I
You know
tried.
how many people in that cemetery are deceased?
All of them, yes.
Yep, thank you. Just thought I'd check.
I mean, you should see the crazy people that walk through there all the time, though. So.
Well, people don't really come up with a number, but Kyle was sharp. Okay, we're going to open the public hearing. Anybody here from the public hearing? Both of you want to talk about this? Or on Zoom? Anybody on Zoom? Nobody's in the audience, so we can make the motion.
Motion to close the hearing.
Okay, thanks, Rich.
second it.
Okay, Rich makes a motion, Mike seconds it. Close the public hearing. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public hearing is closed. No correspondence, obviously. Jennifer would have said something.
Correct.
Okay. Anything more? Anybody want to talk about? Not? Let's do the findings. Number 1, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not? It is consistent. I'm just waiting for the guys to tell me why.
According to, Mr. Chair, according to the zoning ordinance, falls under 439, section 4.10.1.
Number 2, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? List the sections.
Mr. Chair, it does conform to the comprehensive plan, again with the living goals of number 2, the manage the impacts of growth and development.
Is the proposal compatible with existing neighborhood?
Mr. Chair, I would say it is, because if you look across the road to the west, it's all developed into, looks like 1 acre or less lots already. And this seems to be the best thing to do when you have 8 acres. That's really too much for one house anyhow to be doing. So I think it fits in very well.
4, How has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
Mr. Chair, I think the standards will be satisfied as he moves forward through the plating and permitting processes that he's got to face next if we move along.
By what he shared with us tonight and also what he shared with the township, I think also.
Part of it is he decided to wait until he got all the permits instead of moving forward. So
He's already showing responsibilities
Right.
and what they wanted him to do and allowed him to do.
that's what I think.
Number 5, other issues pertinent to the matter, township input. It's been before the township. They're recommending approval. Permits, there really aren't any at this point. Environmental concerns,
There should be
there aren't any. Information submitted regarding property taxes, there's been none. Public health, safety, traffic generation impacts, minimum none. Public service facilities, including schools, parks, streets, utilities, really no change. Financial assurance required, not required. Other issues pertinent to it, there really aren't any. Okay, with that, motion's in order.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, Mike makes a motion to recommend approval to the county board in January 4th meeting.
I'll second it.
Rich seconds it. Any discussion on that motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Recommendation is granted. Good luck. Number 3, consider a rezoning request submitted by Jim and Denise Clavercamp, Clearwater. Every one of you two is Jim. You can come up to the, and Jennifer will give the staff report.
All right, another rezoning request. This one is to rezone approximately 40 acres from A40 to residential 10. This property is on County Road 44 in Section 9 of Linden Township. All right. So on this one, they're requesting to rezone the entire property, 40 acres. The property currently has an accessory structure on it. They have a feedlot registration for 9.9 animal units. So they've got horse or a few horses there, I'm not entirely sure. But they also have a permit to build a house on the property, which hasn't been started yet. But there's plan to build just west of the accessory building that's out there. If the rezoning is approved, the applicant plans to subdivide the property into 4 lots. So as far as future access, so the property is on the corner of 2 county roads, and then on the north is Woolston Road, which is a township road. So the appropriate permits will be needed at that time if the rezoning is approved. So as you could see from going out there and from the aerial photo, it's primarily tillable farmland, other than the area around that building. And it has a slope kind of down to the southeast corner of the property. If the rezoning is approved and if they jump into a plat process, then the wetlands will be delineated. There's potentially wetland on the site, although it may be farmed wetland, but there is potentially some wetland on the site. Now, I mentioned they currently have a feedlot registration for 9.9 animal units. In the R10 district, the maximum you can have is 6, so the property owner would have to modify his registration to be a maximum of 6. And then furthermore, if he would reduce that lot with the animals to 10 acres, then the maximum is 4. So I've communicated with Jim about that, and so he's aware of that situation. The Lisa score was run on the property. That came back at 69. The soils scored very good. The LE part, 49.5, almost the full score you can get on that. And then the site assessment was lower, 19.5. That's primarily due to the number of homes in the area and the minimal amount of feedlots in the area. So that's why the SA part was so low. But it did score 69. Looking at the zoning in the area, you can see it's residential. Obviously, there's a lot of homes in the area. So it's residential east and west, but then it is zoned ag north and south. There are more than 100 homes and 2 registered feedlots within a half a mile. Those 2 feedlots, though, are less than 10 animal unit sites. The comp plan does show this as a concentrated development area on the future land use map. The township reviewed it. Linden Township recommended approval. And that's all I have. I did visit the site December 6th, and then when you get to the hearing, I have 1 letter.
Okay. So if you visited the site, when I call your name, say yes. If you did not, say no. Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I did.
Yes.
Ken? Yes. Ken? Sean?
Yes.
And Commissioner Persky. Okay, we all visited the site. Applicant introductions. Jim, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jim Clevercamp. I live at 19004 Wilson Court, Clearwater.
Anything you want to add to the staff report?
I bought the property over 30 years ago. We live in one of the 2.5 acre lots just north of it. I just want to comment on the LISA score, specifically the LE part of it, I guess land evaluation, I would assume. It scored very high, obviously 49 out of 50. It is in fact sandy loam soil. My brother has farmed it for the last 30 years almost 30 years that I've owned it. This year it was a complete loss. It was 90% of what would be the average yield. I asked my brother what would be typical over the last 10 years. He said 60 to 70 acres. I can support that if need be, but that's the verbal that he gave me as far as the yield. Certainly doesn't seem to be a 49 that it should be a 49 out of 50 score. My understanding that some of this farmland that is sandy, it's based on that. It might get a high score because you could irrigate it. Considering where it is in the vicinity of many houses, I would be very uncomfortable putting a well in that consumes 500 gallons a minute for a risk of drying up somebody's well. I just don't want to get into that. So as far as the intended use, like Jennifer said, I do have our plan has always been to build a house out there someday. Our stepping stone was to build a shed. Well, the shed turned into a shed with some living provisions in it. My daughter talked me into that. She is getting married in the fall. She has the horse that takes care of the horse that is on the property. So it was just to give her a space to live temporarily. Our long-term plan is to build a house eventually out there. Now, if you tell me no, we're not going to rezone it, not a possibility. It has an effect on how much I put into this house. But if it can someday stand alone on its own parcel, well then I'm going to, build accordingly. And then I could build a house on a separate parcel and, have both. So that's it.
Got it. How many elephants can you have?
How many what?
Elephants.
Depends on their weight.
How many animal units is an elephant?
That's a great question.
We've gone through this before, and because it's a short meeting and it's Christmas, we can act stupid once in a while and just ignore us, Jim.
1 animal unit per 1,000 pounds?
Okay, sheep were always a good one too. Elephants and sheep, that's what I always wanted to know. We're going to open the public hearing. I assume the gentleman in the back's not here for this. Oh. Have you been? Are you satisfied, or you want to come up and ask that? Okay.
I have a question, if I
Go.
could.
Well, you can't ask a question on your own application.
I have.
I'm kidding.
working with Jennifer over probably the last year or so, just trying to figure this out. My understanding was that if I change it to an R10, I can divvy it up as far as the acres, however I choose, as long as there's just 4 building entitlements. That I could have a 10-acre lot, maybe 2.5 acre lots, and a 25-acre lot. Is that, when I presented that to the township, they said, no, it has to be 10 equal lots. The reason for what I was doing, I was trying to conserve farmland. I was trying to keep, as much for farming practices, keep it practical for that, and not, put a house in the middle of everything and not be able to do anything with the property. So that.
God bless you. That's good strategy. Jennifer, you want to?
Yeah, sure, Mr. Chair. That is an option, certainly. The minimum lot size is 1 acre, so you could do 4 1-acre lots and leave 36 acres farm field, or you can do variable, like you mentioned. So that is certainly an option.
Cluster, that cluster development, it's smart. You don't use up the whole, and land is land. People always, if you want to do something bizarre, then they kind of justify the land doesn't mean nothing, and if they want to keep it land, then they say it's valuable as everything. I know it's sandy, it's obviously, but God bless you that you're trying to keep land still open land. So you got that answered now. You can do that. Ken?
Can certainly work with the township on that too, so they understand.
Jim, what they're trying, everybody that comes, we try to tell them to do what you want to do. But they tell us everybody wants 10-acre lots. That's why they said that. But if you want to go do less, that's good.
The reality is I just want 1 extra building entitlement here, and there is no such thing in an R20 anymore, right? So it's either A40 or R10, so that's the stepping stone. Now, Jennifer originally suggested to keep the ag benefits of the north 10 acres, to keep that as A40 and rezone the remaining 30 acres as R10. And the township said, no, you can't do that. That would be considered spot zoning. And I know and that is illegal, but it's somewhat subjective in this particular situation with the surrounding development. So I didn't want to argue with them. That's what they said, and they weren't going to approve it unless I agreed to, the A10 throughout, or I'm sorry, the R10 throughout, and that's what I agreed to. So.
But you're not going to be held by that, obviously. Now we do this step, and then he does the plating.
Well, so the R10, so the request is to rezone all of it to R10. There was a thought where he would just rezone 30 acres maybe to R10 and keep some of it ag, but sounds like the township wanted it all to go to R10 if anything was going to go. So that is the request, for it all to go to R10, but then when it comes to actually splitting it, we can talk about the lot sizes.
You can do what you want to do. So it'll be zoned, but you can do what you want to do.
There's no real benefit anymore to the A40, right? As far as the Schaus
right.
living.
Right.
Yeah. So that
there was there was an ordinance change, so there was a benefit to staying zoned ag, because then he didn't have to worry about how much of the Schaus was living space versus garage, and that was part of our big ordinance changes a year ago. So that's not an issue anymore.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Persky.
Jim, it sounds like you got it pretty well figured out here with staff. But just question between the house and then the house being built, as far as will they be using the same drain field or the same septic, or will they be separate septics, because you could run into problems?
If I can't rezone, then I'm going to have the house close to this house, so that I can classify this living quarters as an accessory dwelling unit. Okay, so then it would have to be close. If I can get it rezoned, then I want to probably divorce the properties and have them stand independent so they wouldn't share the same. It would be on a different parcel. It just makes it easier for someone to afford it, one of our kids to afford it. You put a house and a house on the same property, it becomes a very unaffordable, piece of property that.
Thought it might be a man cave. Okay.
Pardon?
I just thought the house might be a man cave. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. It's something we all want to share at this point. Yes.
Okay. You want to read the letter?
Yes. So this comes from Sam Calvert, located at 18713 7th Avenue East, Clearwater. Cutting the field up into 10-acre chunks seems really wasteful. Properties across the road in Lumley's Long Lake Estates are about 2 acres. Properties across the marsh to the east are likewise about that size or smaller. Properties to the north, other than the Lumley 20 acres, are likewise a couple of acres. Properties south of County Road 145 Dover are larger. Cutting this up into just 10-acre parcels, considering the surrounding area to the north, east, and west, simply contributes to sprawl. Signed, Sam Calvert.
With that, nobody else here, or did you want to say something yet? No, the audience. Nope. Okay. Then a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, I move we close the public hearing.
Sean moves and Ken seconds. Close the public hearing. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion no. Public hearing is closed. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do the findings. Number 1, is a proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance?
Mr. Chair, it is consistent with Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439. I'm going to take a stab here and say Section 10.1.
Is he right, Jennifer?
Nope, that's the floodplain.
Okay, let's try it again, Sean.
4.10.
That's
Come on,
4.8. 4.8. 4.4.
4.10.
10.1. We're
See,
close.
a team, we can do this. Okay?
Got those hand signals?
Yeah, it was like smoke signals or something. 2, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? Sean's gun shy now. He's not going to say anything.
Mr. Chair, it does, under living goals, which manage the impacts of growth and development on the county's rural character and natural resources, and support housing options that give people in all life stages and of all economic means viable choices for the safe, stable, and affordable homes, which is what Jim's trying to do.
3, is the proposal compatible with existing neighborhood? Kinda. It is.
It is, because there's a lot of other
4,
houses.
how has the applicant demonstrated the standards criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied? He shared with us his plan and his intent, and he took it to the township, so.
He's certainly well informed.
Yep.
And doing the right thing.
Other issues pertinent to the matter? Township input, yep. Linden Township recommend approval. Federal, state, local permits, there are none. Environmental concerns, groundwater, surface water, wellhead protection, really there aren't any. Information submitted regarding property taxes, there were none. Public health, safety, traffic generations, minimum to 0. Public service facilities, including schools, parks, streets, utilities, really no effect. Financial assurance required to guarantee reclamation, not applicable. Other issues pertinent to the...
I only have one question, Mr. Chair. Jim has said the township there is pretty set that they want 10-acre lots. Now, will he, when he gets this platted, be able to do what he wants, or does he have to follow their guidelines to get like building permits and things?
My understanding would be he'll have 4 10-acre lots, but he can do the cluster or do the platting the way he wants to on one of those 10-acre lots.
Mr. Chair, so he wouldn't necessarily have to have all 10-acre lots, so he could do smaller lots if he wanted. That's what the ordinance allows. The township ordinance also doesn't have a different minimum. They used 2 years ago. They had 2-acre, I think, minimum.
He will be getting 4 building entitlements.
But they don't anymore. So yeah, he'll have 4 building entitlements as long as they're each 1 acre. That meets the ordinance. And we'll work with the township on that so they understand. Yeah, so He's got options how he wants to split
Well, I
it up.
just didn't want him be forced into going this 10-acre route there. It's a waste of a lot of land.
Yeah, correct. And like you said, he'll have 4 building entitlements, but they don't all have to be 10-acre
Okay.
lots.
Okay. With that, motion would be in order.
I'll move to approve it.
I'll second that.
Okay. Ken moves to recommend approval of the county board in their January 4th board meeting. Rich seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Recommendation is granted. Good luck. Motion to approve the minutes of November 18th meeting.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Okay. Rich moves, Mike seconds, approve the meeting minutes of November 18th. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's done. Somebody want to update the board on Painesville Township's moratorium? Or don't you know about it? The township said they notified the county on the day morning after, but in case you didn't, Painesville Township passed the moratorium on solar developments. So
And they probably notified Angie.
I'd appreciate an email to the full commission, like we always do, if you don't mind. Commissioner Persky, you've had some meetings with Milk and Honey. You want to update the commission on that?
I have, no, we have not, I have not.
Oh, they haven't
the
met.
Township maybe is meeting with,
Okay.
met with them.
But there's some issues that evidently have come up. The townships contacted some of the commissioners and others,
Yeah, and
myself.
I've had, again, a couple of the residents call me about that, and a couple of businesses call me about that too, so.
I had one today, and I forwarded them to you as the board representative of the planning commission, so you might be getting that. And then Munson Township was confused on the vacation rentals, about not being notified about the meeting, and Angie was going to follow up with them.
Yep. Angie's going to their meeting on Monday night.
Got it.
Yep. And Sauk Center also wants to talk about vacation rentals, so I'm attending their meeting Monday afternoon.
So maybe just keep us in the loop on
Yep.
that.
Mainly Sauk Center Township or Sauk Center City?
Township.
Okay.
They meet in the credit union, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then does somebody want to talk about the board appointments, Joe,
The board appointments,
for the planning?
well, all the incumbents were reinstated, so you're back, everyone that's here is back on as far as planning is concerned.
Jason Crone, Jason Wienerman, and myself. So
3
that's,
J's.
that's what the board did.
So at the January meeting, then you guys will do your appointments to Planning Committee, Park Commission, and then Board of Adjustment, I think is. Who's up next for BOA? I don't remember. Okay.
Anything else? If not, motion be in order. Rich moves to close the public, or to end the planning commission meeting. Sean seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. 1 hour and 13 minutes.
Yeah. Are you surprised I didn't have many questions? These were all layups, weren't they?